Unfortunately, America's been around 250 years, and nearly every year we've been at war in that 250 years. It's a frightening statistic, but it's something you can look up. I think there's something like 15 or 20 years out of our history when we've not been at war with somebody. This is not the first time I've seen this movie. You know, history's pretty clear that whenever countries have gotten overextended militarily and financially and politically, it often leads to big changes, not necessarily for the good, maybe for the other side. It leads to good changes. The Germans had a wonderful time when Rome got overextended. It went into decline and started collapsing. And whenever there's something that nobody wants, you should at least look. When people are saying, I am never going to buy stocks again, you should probably look. When everybody you hear says, I'll never, ever buy stocks, that's a good sign. When people say gold is a fraud, get out of gold, you should at least look. There is no question that America is now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. That is not good. We had big debts at the end of World War II, but we also had gigantic savings, which had been forced by the Depression and by the war. During the war, there were all sorts of controls and restrictions. And so America had big savings offsetting its big debt. And we paid off the debt with the savings and the boom, which happened after the war, because we had all this capacity. We built a lot of factories during the war. So America had capacity, savings to offset the debt. We don't have any savings now, Elliot. We don't have any excess capacity or much excess capacity now. No, this is a very different situation from the late 1940s. In a decade, no currency ever has stayed on top for more than 100 years or so. No country has stayed on top for more than 100, 150 years or so. We've had our period. I don't know if it's coming to an end anytime soon, but I do know that many people are looking for competitors for the dollar now, with good reason. The way an international currency is supposed to work is you can use it everywhere. Anybody can. But Washington now, if they get angry at you, they put sanctions on you and say you cannot use the US dollar. We are overextended militarily all over the world. We have troops in over 100 countries. We certainly didn't have troops in over 100 countries in the 1940s. So we are doing things which may cause us to have problems down the road. They certainly have in history caused other countries to have problems. And if that's the case, the end of the American empire may be a bit of a stretch, but it certainly could be the top. And it could, in the 1920s, the UK was the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number two. 50 years later, Elliot, they were bankrupt. IMF had to fly to London airport and bail them out, literally bail out what had been the richest, most powerful country in the world only 50 years before. So it has happened throughout history, can happen, will happen. When it happens to us, I don't know, but I do know it's going to happen to us because I can look out the window and see the debt. Look at all that debt, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Unfortunately, America's been around 250 years, and nearly every year we've been at war in that 250 years. It's a frightening statistic, but it's something you can look up. I think there's something like 15 or 20 years out of our history when we've not been at war with somebody. In Washington, they seem to like war. I don't particularly. I know it's no good for anybody. And I read the same press you do, and they're shouting at the Chinese, they're shouting at the Russians. Elliot, if America goes to war with China and Russia, get out of the globe. That's not a good war. That's not a good war for America to get war with China and Russia and whoever their allies are at the same time. Yeah, we might have the Japanese on our side. That's not going to help very much against Russia and China, if it comes to that. And those guys in Washington, they keep getting us into wars. Afghanistan failed, Iraq failed, Vietnam failed. We keep getting into wars. We kill a lot of people and we lose a lot of money. And yet those guys in Washington don't seem to learn their lessons. People say, wait a minute, that's not the way it's supposed to work. This is supposed to be universal and neutral. So many people are now looking for a competitor to the US dollar, as they should, because the US is changing the rules. China, Russia, India, Brazil, these are pretty big names that are looking for competitors. They'll find something. I own US dollars. I expect the US dollar to get overpriced during the next hard times, at which point I hope I'm smart enough to sell it if that happens. Where I'll put my money, I don't know. I don't have a place yet. Maybe gold, but if gold will be too high then, probably. So I don't know. I do know that these are in times, at least historically, this would say that the US, as I said, we're the largest debtor nation in the world. We're overextended militarily. Those guys in Washington seem to want war with Ukraine. They want war with Taiwan. They want war with everybody. It's astonishing. America is certainly making a top. I don't particularly like saying it, but I have to deal with facts. But I don't think Mississippi River is going to dry up, go away. I don't think the Rocky Mountains are going to collapse. America's still going to be there, but it'll certainly be different, just as the UK was different. This is not the first time I've seen this movie. History's pretty clear that whenever countries have gotten overextended militarily and financially and politically, it often leads to big, big changes, not necessarily for the good. Maybe for the other side, it leads to good changes. The Germans had a wonderful time when Rome got overextended and went into decline and started collapsing. Well, China has problems, of course, but as you point out, they are letting people collapse. At least they say they are, and there's evidence so far is they are letting some people fail, which is great. Great for China, great for the world. I hope that in America, when people get overextended, we'll let them collapse. But that's not what Washington does. They say, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Well, we're already the largest debtor nation in world history. I hope they'll take care of me. Unfortunately, America's been around 250 years, and nearly every year we've been at war. Whenever there's something that nobody wants, you should at least look. When people are saying, I am never going to buy stocks again. In our decades, no currency ever has stayed on top for more than 100 years or so. No country has stayed on top for more than 100, 150 years or so.